and therefore dies in the blaze, I would imagine, but it's a wonderful story.
In case you were wondering what you are listening to Widsith and Dior Presents on Phonic FM, and this is a bit of an ad-libbed show because we've come into a studio without very much working except the mics and one headphone. So I can hear the headphone. Poor old Widsith over there has no ability to know whether you can hear her or not, or how she sounds. She's doing fairly well, but a bit breathy, I thought. That's on-live criticism.
And the lights aren't working and the CD player isn't working.
But being storytellers, we don't let that bother us over much. We're sitting here performing anyway, because why not? Right, I think it's time for another riddle. All the riddles, and I should have given us a plug here already, we put online. The show has its own website. The website is named after the show, Widsith Dior Presents, but you might not find it on Google because it is a Google site, and Google sites are often it doesn't find its own sites wonderfully. The easiest way to find the show, and we put recordings of the old show, should you ever want to hear it again, all on YouTube files on this website. It's called Widsith Dior Presents, but you find it by going to our website. Now, our website is part of the Cartwheels Collective. If you put Widsith and Dior into Google or any other search engine, I guess will do it, you will find us fairly quickly.
Or just go straight to cartwheels-collective.co.uk.
And then look for Widsith and Dior. We're on the top navigation bar and throughout because it's a bit our website, and the link to the radio show and everything else we do, as well as the images of us and video and anything you might want to go and see or hear.
Yeah, our diary page, and also where if you fancy buying our books, because we're serialising Paul of the Wall.
Some of the other things we do. For instance, I do stand-up philosophy, which is what I will be doing in painting, and my partner over there does performance poetry as well as numerous other things. They are all there. Talking of that, I thought I would just quickly plug the shows coming up, and then we'll do another story, and then I think it will be about time for a reading from Pollock the Warlock. Oh, I'll do a riddle as well. Just so that the show's coming up, Widsith Dior Presents series. The next one is going to be on Halloween. That's going to be a treat for Widsith, because she's going to get to read out all the poems she always reads out on Halloween, like...
Robert Frost's House of Fear, and are
we going to get Colonel Fitzagley?
Well, I'd love to do Charles Corsley's Colonel Fitzagley, but I'm not sure about the copyright issues for that one. But there are a wonderful selection of old poets. There's some Ben Jonson, and it'll be fantastic.
Talking of which, it's time for another riddle. The riddle, as I said, is currently posted on the website, so you can sit and ponder it. We will give you the solutions in a fortnight's time, so you've got a fortnight to wonder about this. And this is one of those riddles. It's one of the riddles from the Anglo-Saxon, from the extra book, where it's not actually obvious because we do it slightly differently. My advice to you is to ignore the first two lines because they're a red herring now. I am summoned forth by two dumb waiters, a bright warrior that many a man will take up and wield to great destruction to his foes. But perhaps I have more power when I am taken into the halls of men and used by some woman who with marvellous craft binds together some beautiful, palatable creation. Feed me with care, else I do destroy you, and never give me drink, else I die. Say who I am. Right, well, solutions you could always email to them. The easiest email is Widsith. Now, Widsith is spelled with a surprise D, so it is
Widsith.
Widsith@blueyonder.co.uk. That will get there, or you could have cartwheels.collective, both spelled as you think they are, at gmail.com. Both will get us there. Give us your solutions. We'll give you an online mention, and you never know, we might one day give away free books if you get it right. Probably would, actually. Probably give you a free copy of Pollock the Warlock, signed by Widsith. She's looking at me now because I haven't actually queried that with her. I think it's time for just one good little short story. Lots of the short stories we do are sent from the side of the Arab Fool. The Arab Fool is called Duja, and this is a lovely story. It's my favourite Duja story. It's a bit long, but it'll be alright. It is called Duja and the Lion, and I love telling this story in front of kids because it's got a slightly weird ending. Now, Duja lived with all his friends in a village on the other side from the wood. But that was was on the other side of a hill there lay a wood, and that was fine, for there were two ways to get to the wood. You either went through a pretty valley, or you went up the steep hill. Well, Dooja and all his friends, they always went along the pretty valley way. Well, you would, wouldn't you? One day, Dooja and his best mate Abdul were going along the pretty wooded way down the valley towards the forest to collect wood to make bread. And they had gone about half the way when all of a sudden Abdul stopped and said, "Hang on, there's a technical hitch. We can't go this way, look." And he pointed to the ground. And on the ground there was an enormous giant at the lion's footprint. And Dooja looked at the footprint and thought to himself, "I want to go the pretty way." And then he looked at the footprint some more and he said, "Oh, it's all right. That's not a recent footprint. The lion ain't here. I'm going to carry on the nice, easy way. I'm not going back to the village and up the steep hill. Well, I don't want to." And so he carried on going. And Abdul looked at the footprint. And that was true. It wasn't terribly fresh. And so he joined Dooja, and the pair of them went along the valley way, which was a little wooded, down to the deep woods, down to the forests, and there they collected an immense amount of firewood, bundled it up, and started to go home along the pretty valley way. Well, they hadn't gone more than 100 yards when all of a sudden Abdul stopped and said, "Hang on, there's another look. There's a lion's footprint, and it's fresh because it weren't here when we came, so there must have been a lion when we were down in the woods. Oh, and what's that? There's a pail of lion poo right by it, and it's steaming. It's real fresh. There's been a lion here in the last 3 minutes, I think. We got to go back the other way, Dooja." And Dooja looked at the pool, and he looked at the footprint, and he looked at the high hill, and he looked along the pretty valley way, and then he suddenly said, "No, I'm not going to do it. Think of it this way. The lion is the king of all the beasts. You've heard that, haven't you?" And Abdul had to agree. He had heard that the lion was the king of all the beasts. And Dooja said, "Well, that means he's more noble than the likes of you and me, and that means he's less likely to stay round his toilet than we are. He'll have done his paw, and then he'll have gone. He'll be miles away by now. A lion can walk very quickly when it wants to escape something." And so saying, Dooja carried along the valley way. And Abdul shrugged his shoulders, for he knew he could not dissuade Dooja, and he went back to the forest and started to climb up the steep way, the steep stony hill. Well, Dooja had gone more than halfway along the pretty valley way when coming around the corner was the largest, fiercest, hungriest looking lion he'd ever seen. And the lion got ready to spring, and Dooja was terrified, but he didn't quite lose his cool and said, "Oh, hello, Mr. Lion. Hello, what are you doing down here?" And the lion roared at him and said, "I am here because I have been told by the great God himself that I am always tired and always hungry because I need to eat the brains of a human being. And that God has sent you to me, and now I will eat you and become strong." And the lion roared and all his claws came out. But Dooja said, "Hang on, Mr. Lion, there's a problem." And the lion roared all the louder and cried, "What?" And Dooja said, "Well, you need to eat me because you need to eat my brains in order to become strong. That's what's going to happen, isn't it?" And the lion said, "Yes." And Dooja said, "Well, I ain't got no brain." No brain at all. Anybody with an ounce of brain would have been able to work out after the pile of what you did at the front of this path that there was a lion down here. I couldn't work it out. You can't eat me because you killed me and you opened my head and you find no brain. Do you know what that poor lion did? Yes, that's right. It burst into floods of tears. "Oh, will I never be strong?" it roared. And it moved Dooja, and he went and he gave it a hug, and he said, "Don't you worry, Mr. Lion. My friend Abdul worked out from the pile of lion poo there'd be a lion down here. He must have a brain. He's going up the hill way now. Why don't you go off and eat him?" And that was what the poor lion did. It went up the hill, caught and ate Abdul. Well, Dooja, you'd all be pleased to know, arrived home safe and sound.
That's a picture of moral ambivalence, that story.
And when you perform it in front of quite small kids, they sit there with the most wonderful puzzled expression. They kind of like it, and they all get the point. Most of them just end up concluding that Dooja is a so-and-so, which he perhaps is. And now, I think, just to remind you what you're listening to an impromptu acoustic cassette by Widsith Dio on Phonic FM. Only the mics are working, but we're carrying on regardless. And I think it is time, is there enough light for you to read for the sequel?
Oh, just about.
Right, so it's time for your sequel, Porlock, the Warlock and the Indigo Swan. Just to remind you where we've started from so far. It starts off not as it carries on, so you're still being lulled into a false sense of security. For the Mitzies had just done a cheese raid on Porlock. The hermit up at Dunkery Beacon's cheese collection.
And he's just woken up and found them. Porlock the Warlock and the Indigo Swan, episode 2. It was the next morning.